What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another video. Kind of a different one here. We're looking at CBS's top 100 players ranking. This is something that came out a couple days ago, and I'm not normally one to get into these rankings and everything. I don't necessarily think they're important or anything like that, but I thought it could be a fun thing to look at. Apparently, these 8 CBS writers got together. They ranked players 1 from 100, right? If they were number 1, they got 100 points. If you were 100, you got 1 point, right? And based off that, they have this accumulation of rankings. And I haven't really taken a look through them yet. So I thought it could be kind of a cool thing to go through this list, get my opinions. I'm not a sports writer. I'm a person that's been in the industry, actually. And so maybe my value of players is a little bit different than theirs. And I don't know. I'm just curious to see. Like, we start off here with Grant Williams, and I had to do quick math in my head because I'm like, okay, 30 NBA teams, 5 starters each. That's 150 players. So presumably these are all like starter caliber players and everything. Because I looked at Grant Williams' number 100, and I'm like, how many starters are there in the NBA? Because Grant Williams is an NBA starter. So I'd say I have nothing to really base this off of as to where he should be, but that's where he is. KCP being after him, Bruce Brown. So Bruce Brown being ahead of KCP is probably fair. I know KCP started over him, but I think that's more of a necessity for the shooting. I think Bruce Brown is overall a better basketball player. That Swiss Army knife type, I think, goes a long way in the NBA. I'll be curious to see how they play him this year, because do they start Buddy Hield and Halliburton with the Pacers? Because I would assume they want Bruce Brown out of there, and then do they have Mathurin come off the bench as just kind of a scorer, which I do think that's kind of where Mathurin's ceiling is, but I'm just curious to see what they do with that team this year. The first rookie appears in Scoot Henderson. So the rookies are going to be the hardest ones to rank, right? I mean, they haven't played actual NBA minutes yet, but based off of what you've seen of Scoot Henderson so far, even in just the preseason, I think he's going to be a phenomenal NBA player. I think his ceiling's high. He's got that attitude like he just is going to be a very good basketball player. So I'm curious to see who they have like in front of like Markelle Fultz. Like, if he plays as good as Markelle Fultz is projected to play this year, I think you'd have a very successful rookie season in Scoot Henderson. Markelle Fultz, people forget he's quietly become, yeah, this is a great thing right here. One of the NBA's best stories. Yes, number 1 pick, the Sixers kind of screwed him over with what happened, but man, he has been a great player for Orlando. He is a starting point guard on most teams. Coming down, we got Bogdanovich. Bogdanovich is he's exactly what the Pistons need, right? They have so many ball dominant guards and everything. You need a guy that's 45% on his catch and shoot threes, right? He's a guy that can go get you 20 points any night. He's getting up there in age. Probably would have made sense to move him, but you're trying to be competitive, right? At the end of the day, you're trying to build a winning culture. So having a guy like that on a young team, I feel like goes a long way. And so Robert Williams here is an interesting one. Last year he was ranked 56. That doesn't surprise me. He's on the Trailblazers this year with DeAndre Ayton. They're not going to start both of them, at least I don't think so. That'd be like what Minnesota's trying to do with Cat and Gobert, but like a poor man's version with Ayton and Rob Will. Now, I do think Robert Williams, when healthy, is like a defensive player of the year candidate, but what is his role with this team? Does he stay healthy? I don't know. I'd say it's probably fair that they have him here for now. And you see, now we got Jordan Poole and Jabari Smith here. Jordan Poole at 93 just seems atrocious to me. I'm of the belief that I truly do think Jordan Poole might lead the league in scoring this year, just from shot attempts alone and his ability to make shots. And he's got a couple decent playmakers around him in like the Kuzma and the Tyus Jones and stuff like that. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him lead the NBA in scoring. And so to put him 93 seems weird. He's definitely not below Jabari Smith. Now, Jabari Smith, very quality rookie season. A lot of defense. Offense wasn't great. I know they say, oh, he scored in double figures in 19 of his last 20 games. None of it was ever that efficient. He averaged nearly 16 points and eight rebounds over that stretch. Yeah, but at that point in the season, like that, the Rockets were just kind of running around, chucking shots and everything. You're not actually playing basketball. And now I think Jabari Smith's going to be a good basketball player. I think that now that they have like some true NBA players on the team and they can actually play some NBA basketball, he's going to be better because I actually think he's a very smart basketball player. And so I think when you're actually running an NBA offense with some competent players around him and you're not just an overglorified AAU team, he's going to be better. But to have Jordan Poole all the way down here is just atrocious. Mike Conley, Walker Kessler, Jalen Green. Mike Conley in front of Jordan Poole, too. Like, Conley's a very nice player, but no. Walker Kessler could very well be a Defensive Player of the Year candidate this year, just fresh off the Team USA thing. I'd put him in front of Jalen Green. My thing with Jalen Green, like all players that were playing for the Rockets last year, I don't think he knows how to play basketball. I think he's really talented. I don't think he knows where to be on the court. I don't think he has great instincts, and I think that's kind of just the way he grew up playing basketball, unfortunately. But man, is his talent crazy. So dang athletic, can hit such crazy shots. Hopefully they straighten him up this year, because as of right now, he's empty calories, right? He gets you 20 points a game off of the fact that somebody has to. Next couple players, Emmanuel Quickley, Kevin Huerter, and RJ Barrett. RJ Barrett being the one that stands out the most, right? Kevin Huerter is a very quality starter, right? Great floor spacer, plays great defense. 15 points per game on 40% three-point shooting. I love it from Huerter. Quickley's one of those guys that comes off the bench, right, and just lights it up against bench players. Really like Quickley. RJ Barrett last year was ranked 63. Looks like he fell a little bit. It's the shooting at the end of the day for Barrett, right? I mean, that's the big thing. If he could step it up and become a high volume shooter, right, so that he's not just one of these guys, and there's value to this of just being a bully that gets to the paint, right? He'd be really great for them. The problem is that Julius Randle and Brunson work so much in the mid range and close to the hoop, right? Especially Randle, who most of his offense is isolation ball. You'd like to see RJ Barrett be able to be more of an outside presence for him. Next couple players here, Alperen Şengün, Jokic light, if you will. I'm curious to see where he goes this season. I don't know if his numbers necessarily go up this year, especially with new guys on the team to take up some shots, but I'm just curious to see his development, right? There's a lot of things he does. He's actually a sneaky good athlete, too, despite what you might think about him. Herb Jones is just a nice basketball player. A lot of length. He's got a pretty solid contract for all things considered. His three-point shot, hopefully on the rise, I would hope. But man, his defense is elite. Jaden McDaniels, even more elite defender, could be one of the best perimeter defenders this year. Shot decently well last year. 39.4% of his three-point attempts. Yeah, no. He could, as they said, make an all-defensive team next year. He's really just an important player to this Timberwolves team. And honestly, like, this is just a Timberwolves side tangent. I'd rather just see Ant out there with like a McDaniels and like a Naz Reid and then Mike Conley or something. And I don't know about Kyle Anderson. I'd probably want someone else there, but that's a five that I think Ant could actually excel with a little bit more. And then Devin Vassell, a guy that's going to benefit so much from having Wembanyama on his team this year. We've seen already in preseason how much his shooting has improved in the 18.5 points a game last year, given kind of those empty stats against somebody had to score outside of Keldon Johnson. But no, I truly think Devin Vassell is going to be a nice player, and I would have him, I'd have him above these guys. Looking here next, Trey Murphy, Tobias Harris, and Nick Claxton. Interesting. Would I have any of these guys above any of these guys? I don't necessarily think so. Trey Murphy is kind of just like an opposite of Herb Jones in some ways, where his shooting is just a lot more improved. You lose a little bit on defense, but again, just quality starting wings in New Orleans. They've got a lot of those. Tobias Harris, Mr. Consistency in a lot of ways. He's the definition of a solid NBA starter, is a great way to say. He spaces the floor. He can put the ball on the floor if he needs to. Solid defender, great vet to have on a Sixers team trying to contend. Nick Claxton, another one of those Defensive Player of the Year candidates. Yeah, I'd say so. There's not many people that can go out and guard the perimeter like he does. It's the Joakim Noah type, where he's very crafty at finishing around the rim. He can go out and guard those guys on the wings. It really lends to the switchability that Brooklyn can do this year. Their 1 through 5 can really all switch, which in basketball, if you can accomplish just playing switch defense, you're going to stop a lot of teams. Down here, Tyler Hero, possibly Sixth Man of the Year this year. Makes a lot of sense that he'd be up here. High volume score. Defense is pretty I think his playmaking, I know assists 4.2 is it's a little misleading in my opinion. I don't know how great he is at really judging and determining when to make the right passes always. They do put the ball in his hands a lot, and that's the only way to grow. So hopefully it continues to improve, but I don't necessarily trust his playmaking yet. But at the end of the day, man, the dude gets buckets. The dude just absolutely gets buckets. Yeah, he's definitely above all of these guys. Jeremy Grant this high. Yeah, the scoring 20.5 points a game on 60% true shooting is impressive. It's certainly impressive. I don't know if I think I'd rather have Tyler Hero just from the pure scoring standpoint alone. I'll be very curious to see if he can replicate that with the Blazers this year, because there's a lot of people or players with the Blazers that are going to want shots. So, and one of them being right here in DeAndre Ayton. And I don't know if Jeremy Grant works next to DeAndre Ayton very well. Grant, a lot of his stuff is around the rim, and DeAndre Ayton loves mid-range basketball. So I would imagine that these two are probably going to drop a little bit, but it's yet to be said how they're going to play basketball in Portland this year. So these next four are kind of interesting, right? In Kyle Kuzma, Malcolm Brogdon, Chris Paul, Alex Caruso. These are probably in appropriate order. I'm going to start to accelerate through this just a little bit more just because I don't want to take up too much time with it. Kyle Kuzma, I'd rather have Jeremy Grant, in my opinion. I like that Kyle Kuzma is so good without the basketball, and I think that's truly where his value shines. But I don't know. He feels like an empty calorie guy to me. Malcolm Brogdon, just quality basketball player. We know Brogdon just does everything solid. That's what he does. Chris Paul, his years are probably behind him. I feel like you're going to start to see the shooting percentages dip a little bit as the legs start to fall out beneath him. But if anyone can do it, it's Chris Paul. Hey, my first Chicago Bull to appear here, Alex Caruso. I actually think this is a very fair assessment of him, that he is above these guys. I feel like the numbers people would see would actually lead people to not think that. But I think it's probably fair to have him here. Alex Caruso is so impactful on the court that I'd put him here. And then Jarrett Allen, one of the first, potential all-star guys, I should say here. I love Jarrett Allen. I love rim running, rim defending bigs with that kind of athleticism. He's going to be an interesting fit with Mobley this year. I wonder if they'll continue to play them together as Mobley continues to develop into what is definitely a higher ceiling than Jarrett Allen. But it's interesting. I don't see too many centers necessarily above Jarrett Allen, and maybe I'm not thinking about it right. So I'll be curious to see who's in front of him. CJ McCollum, I'd probably rather have Jarrett Allen. I'd probably rather have Tyler Hero. CJ, wonderful basketball player. There's a reason he's this high on the list. I think I'd rather have Jordan Poole, Tyler Hero. I just think they're better at what he does, which is kind of just be that scorer, right? That guard that is just offensive focused, right? I think I'd rather have those two other guys. We got Michael Never Swing the Rock Porter. His game is very easy to figure out. Doesn't play much defense, doesn't get many rebounds, doesn't pass the ball, but he is probably the best catch and shoot basketball player we've seen in a long, long time. And I just think his fit next to Jokic and everything is perfect. I think that as long as he stays healthy, I would say that he's probably fits in around this range. I'd still rather have Jarrett Allen than Michael Porter Jr., but just his pure get buckets ability it's a hard thing to deny. Now, Chet Holmgren here, having him above Jarrett Allen is just wrong to me. I'd take Jarrett Allen every single day in this. I know we haven't seen Chet play much. I know he's very athletic. He can put the ball on the floor a little bit, but I think in terms of like guarding some of these bigger guys, right? Like Jarrett Allen can guard every single center in basketball. I don't think Chet Holmgren can, right? And the Thunder, the problem that they have is they don't have somebody to hide Chet with, right? Like the Spurs are trying to use like a Zach Collins, and I forget it's Bassey, right? Charles Bassey is the other center in San Antonio. They'll be able to hide Wembanyama from those bulkier centers with those guys, and OKC doesn't have that. I don't know where Chet's ceiling is. I'm not too high on him, which I know is a controversial take, but yeah, I'm not sure I see it necessarily. Klay Thompson and Miles Turner. So yeah, Klay Thompson's been a little bit down the past like year and a half. The body's catching up with him, right? But we all know Klay. He's gonna be there when they need it most. Miles Turner above Jarrett Allen? I don't know. Miles Turner does a lot of good things for them. 18 points a game, 54.8 from the field, 37 from deep. Yeah, you know what? Maybe that's tough. I don't know why in my head I'd still rather have Jarrett Allen. I think I just like the way that Jarrett Allen plays more, but you can't deny the fact that Miles Turner is just a very quality center. And then we got Jalen Williams here. I think this is more of a projection than where he actually is. Do I think that he could end up here? Yes. Would I say that right now? No, I wouldn't. But no, Jalen Williams looks like he's going to be a nice player. We'll see where it ends up. Oh my goodness, this Derek White haircut is crazy. I know the last haircut wasn't great, but that is crazy. Scotty Barnes, Austin Reeves, and Derek White. Scotty Barnes being up this high probably makes a lot of sense. Like they said, his sophomore season wasn't bad, but it was a good reminder that development is not always linear. I think that's probably true. I think he surprised people with how talented he actually was, how good at ball handling he actually was. Now that people had a little bit of a scouting report, they were kind of in on it. I'll be curious to see this year if they grow his role at all now that Fred VanVleet isn't there, right? Because Schroeder's not going to take as many shots as VanVleet would have, so ideally there'd be more of a role for Scott, but I don't know. Playing him next to Siakam, there's not a natural fit there, so we'll see what happens there. Hillbilly Kobe, he's one of those guys that could win Most Improved Player this year, and he could be an all-star. I love Austin Reeves, how he plays basketball. Great defender, great energy, one of the best pick-and-roll navigators that I've seen in a while, which really surprised me about him. Like, I was kind of thinking he'd be one of those good off-ball players, but really with the ball, he's dangerous. Yeah, and then Derek White, right? Like one of the best like pick and roll, or even just screen defenders ever. His ability to like navigate it is just unmatched. Derek White, great basketball player. Yeah, I'd have him above these guys right now. Josh Giddey, I'd put Josh Giddey below Derek White though for sure, and probably below Austin Reeves. Josh Giddey does a lot of things well, but at the end of the day, his shooting, I don't necessarily trust it yet. I think he's an improved Ricky Rubio in a way. And I know that's comparing the White point guard that's good at passing and everything, but I think he sees the floor great. I think he plays very quality defense. He's a nice big point guard. He can see and do and create a lot of things, but I think I'd still rather have the Austin Reeves, Derek White. Now, this feels a little bit low for Tyrese Maxey, actually. I feel like Tyrese Maxey's actually a better player than this. Better than Julius Randle. You know, I'd say that, actually. And I know we see Wembanyama here. We'll talk about Wembanyama. I'd say Maxey's probably above this. Like, I definitely think he's the best like point guard we've seen throughout this list so far, and I think we're gonna get to see that a lot more this year, especially although Harden's back, so like who knows? But I hope they give the ball to Maxey a little bit more so that he's not as much of a floor spacer and he can have the ball a little bit more. I'd be curious to see his ability to create. Yeah, I don't know. He's gonna have to improve his defense and everything, but I really like Maxey. Julius Randle. Julius Randle. He's an above average basketball player, right? He scores in high chunks, right? But like not in like the flow of an offense necessarily, and that's always my thing with him. Yeah, the ball stopping, tough twos, yeah, stuff like that. The whining and complaining at times. Yeah, he doesn't show up in the playoffs. Like, I don't know. I'd probably put Julius Randle a bit below that. I think his talent is higher than a lot of these guys. But yeah, like I'd probably rather have like an Austin Reeves than a Julius Randle at this point. And then Wembanyama, fair enough. I've watched a little bit of preseason, and yeah, he's at least this good. I mean, he has the potential to be an all-star already this year. So let's see who they got above him. OG Anunoby. OG Anunoby, is he better than... No, he's not better than Tyrese Maxey. So I don't necessarily agree with that. Marcus Smart, I can live with that. He's so impactful on the one end of the floor that it makes up for maybe his lack of offense and his poor shot taking at times, but I'll still take Marcus Smart over him. Rudy Gobert, still super impactful defensive player. I know it hasn't looked good. The trade looks bad. At the end of the day, still an elite defensive player. Ooh, see, I actually like this one of Aaron Gordon. The numbers in Aaron Gordon's career wouldn't necessarily tell you that he's this high, but I think he is. Him and Andrew Wiggins kind of fall into that same category. Were they the same draft class? I don't remember exactly, but two guys that just hadn't found their home yet, hadn't found their role. They were drafted too early. People thought they were going to be like generational players, maybe not generational players. They said that about Wiggins, maybe not Aaron Gordon, but they just weren't that guy. They were a perfect third guy, right? Like that's where they came in. They're perfect third guys. I know a lot of people said Aaron Gordon should have made a all-star game last year. I don't know about that, but I love his game. I love how it's evolved. Wiggins as well, right? His catch and shoot three-pointers are going up. He's an elite defender. He's an elite rebounder. I'd say that's a good spot for these guys. DeJounte Murray, somebody that probably could be higher, but because he plays with Trae Young, that trade never made sense to me. I don't understand it. John Collins is gone now. They think that that's going to solve the problem. This team's not going to be that good. In my opinion, glad to see Jalen Johnson's going to get some minutes now, but Jalen Johnson's like a slightly worse John Collins. So I don't know. I don't necessarily see it working. I think he's a very good basketball player. Yes, I'd probably put him above Tyrese Maxey, but I don't know if I see it. Banchero, I'm surprised Banchero's all the way down here, man. He is an absolute beast around the rim. I wish they had some more shooting on the Magic so we could really see what he'd look like with a little more space. Brook Lopez, Porzingis, and Fred VanVleet. We don't need to talk about these too much. Shooting, great drop defense. Porzingis, 7'3" unicorn, right? Does a lot of things. He looks great in preseason. VanVleet being this high, though, is kind of a shocker to me, honestly. Yeah, I guess we hadn't seen him yet. I'll take DeJounte Murray over Fred VanVleet. I know he's had really solid points in his career, but I think his game's been figured out a little bit. I'd rather have a DeJounte Murray, maybe not on the Hawks. He won't be better, but I'll take a Tyrese Maxey over him. I definitely would. Franz Wagner here. Now, Franz has got to drop a little bit. Like, Banchero's the best player on that team. He just is. So to have Franz that high in front, I like Franz. I like the duo of those two. I think they're going to be really nice players for them for a long time. They've got something building there. They finally have like a true number one, I feel like, in Banchero, and Franz being a number two. We'll see how good that is. Yeah, the 18 points a game was great last year. He only gets better the more he plays overseas, it feels like. So I'll be curious to see where his ceiling is. Chris Middleton there. Yeah, if healthy, Chris Middleton's there. That makes sense to me. Ooh, a couple more of my Bulls. First, Cade Cunningham. We'll see, right? The word is that he looked really good playing for the Team USA select team or whatever in FIBA. I haven't seen too much of him in preseason, and maybe that's on purpose as he's still kind of getting back into shape. But a lot of potential there at the end of the day. I love Cade Cunningham's game. But for right now, he's below like the Banchero, the Franz, Porzingis, guys like that in my mind. As for my Bulls, DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, I'd probably put them right next to each other. In all honesty, that makes a lot of sense. LaVine definitely better. The way I tell people this is they're like, "Is DeRozan better?" I'm like, "No, DeRozan's just the closer. He's the closing pitcher, and Zach LaVine is the starting pitcher." I actually think Zach LaVine's like extremely underrated. I think he's an above-average defender at this point. I think he's one of the most unguardable players in the NBA. His craftiness, his ball handling skills, his shooting, like. In terms of offense, I think he's one of the most unstoppable guys in the league. And you see, putting Desmond Bane in front of him, I like Desmond Bane a lot, but there's no way you're convincing me that he's better than Zach LaVine or DeMar DeRozan or not better than Chris Middleton, not better than Franz, Porzingis, Banchero, guys like that. I'm not buying it. Do I think he's a very solid NBA player? Again, yes. I do think that. And I'm very curious to see what happens with no Ja Morant this year, right? Like how much scoring load can he take on? But I don't know how good he is with the basketball. I saw him play in college. We played against him, and I don't know where his ceiling is with that. But catch and shoot, defense, like he's like a better version of Bruce Brown, right? And I'm not just comparing him because they're stockier, like shorter guards, but I think that's kind of what he is. He's a better Bruce Brown. Lauri Markkanen, the finisher. Great player. The Bulls messed up not having. I was saying for years, Lauri Markkanen wasn't used correctly in the Bulls. I'm glad somebody figured it out. I'd say he's appropriately placed right here. Who do they have in front of him? Evan Mobley and LaMelo Ball. Yeah, no, I'd probably agree with that. That Evan Mobley. Well, right now is Evan Mobley that good? Defensively, he's that good. But as for right now, I'd probably slot him in like right behind like a Brook Lopez or something. His potential's crazy high. Like his potential's like a Chris Bosh is where I see him, but a better defensive Chris Bosh. I think the ceiling's really high for him. LaMelo Ball, antics and everything aside with LaMelo Ball, very, very bright basketball player, right? He just sees the game so well. Capable everywhere on the court, dangerous wherever he is on the court. If the ball's in his hands, something good's going to happen offensively. Bradley Beal, Karl Anthony Towns. I have a hard time putting Karl Anthony Towns this high. For the sole fact that, like, he's so useless on defense. And no, I'm not saying anything new, but he's so useless on defense that I can't rationalize putting him that high. Bradley Beal, his numbers are probably going to shrink this year. He's going to become more of a third option, but we all know Bradley Beal gets buckets. That's what he does. Darius Garland, Kyrie Irving. Surprised Kyrie Irving's this low, honestly. Garland, this is kind of where I would expect him. We know that he's pretty solid at everything. Kyrie Irving this low. Who do we got? Sabonis, James Harden, and Brandon Ingram? No. Great basketball players. Great basketball. Kyrie Irving is still, he's like I said, it was Zach LaVine. Nobody can guard him. Nobody can stop him. I know his defense isn't that great, but Kyrie Irving is such a difference maker in basketball, and antics and everything aside. We're just talking basketball ability. It's Kyrie Irving above these guys. I don't know how good James Harden is at this point. Who knows what kind of shape he comes in. Ability-wise, I think he's lost a step at getting to the hoop, and I think that's a big part of his game. So, I don't know. I hope the ball is in Maxi's hands just a little bit more at this point. Sabonis, maybe at some point people will figure out that the De'Aaron Fox Sabonis pick and roll shouldn't be that hard to guard, but they play with a lot of energy, and that at the end of the day goes a long way. Brandon Ingram, yeah, the old school scoring wing is a good way to describe him. He was one of those that really struggled with Team USA because he didn't have the ball all the time, and I don't think he knew how to adjust to his role there. And so I think that's really interesting. But in terms of like basketball talent, I'll still put Kyrie Irving in front of him. But yeah, I'd feel comfortable putting him above these two. Here's an interesting next couple three. Pascal Siakam. Yeah, he was extremely underrated last year. People didn't give him enough credit for what he did, especially being like a primary ball handler a lot of the time. Spicy P, really quality player. Draymond Green, I shouldn't have to say anything. He's just out there doing his Draymond Green thing. And Mikal Bridges, sleeper for All-Star game, I would say this year. He's very capable with the ball, and I think we saw a lot of that once he got to Brooklyn last year and he became the number one option. He's got a lot of the skills necessary to take the next step, and he's got a lot of quality basketball players around him, which helps. So curious to see how high he can go. Jaren Jackson Jr., we're really going to learn a lot about him this year, where his ceiling is, right? I'll be curious to see again without Ja, like what's his potential offensively. I feel like we kind of saw it with the 18.5. I would say that's where it caps out at, because he doesn't create his own offense at the end of the day. He doesn't, but great athlete, great shooter, elite defender, right? So I'm very curious to see where Jaren Jackson Jr. goes. I would comfortably put him ahead of these guys. Oh, I love Jalen Brunson so much. He's so fun to watch play basketball. Him and Jrue Holiday, the same type of player, just dissect the basketball court. Absolutely love him. Zion, if Zion plays, he's that good and better. He just is. He's so unstoppable that, yeah, that's where he ranks. Jaylen Brown with Tyrese Halliburton in front and Anthony Edwards above him. I'm going to put Brunson in front of Jaylen Brown. I'd probably say this isn't because of the left hand thing. I just truly think that Brunson is such an all-around basketball player that he just is better than Jaylen Brown. Putting Tyrese Halliburton in front of both of them, though, I'm a big Halliburton fan, and I wasn't a fan of him coming into the NBA. I've just become a big fan of watching his game. I think he's very flashy, and I think he understands the game well. I think he plays the game the right way. But I think I'd still take the Brown and like Brunsons over him at this point in time. But curious to see where he goes. Yeah, obviously Anthony Edwards might end up being like that dude for Minnesota this year. Like, I just wish there was a better team around him. I wish there was some dogs on that team around him, because I think he's a dog, and I want to see it. Trae Young this high? No, I'm a Trae Young hater. I'm going to keep it real with y'all. I think he's a stat sheet stuffer. I think he's a highlight maker and everything. Like, obviously very gifted offensive player with the points and the assists and everything. He's very hard to keep in front of you. He can score from anywhere. That's all great. I'm not saying he should be like 80 or anything like that, but I'm taking Jrue Holiday, taking Jalen Brunson. I'm taking, who else do I want? Give me Kyrie Irving. Give me Garland. Give me LaMelo Ball. Honestly, I'd rather have LaMelo Ball than him. Like, I'm going all the way like down here with him. Like, I'll put him above Cade Cunningham. The rest of these guys I'll take over him. Bam pissed me off in the playoffs, y'all. Bam does so many things well, but man, sometimes he just, like, I don't understand the shots he's taking. Like, you're that athletic and everything, and you can't get next to the hoop and like finish strong. I know he's not like necessarily the tallest, but I don't know. He I kind of feel like he bitches out a little bit around the rim sometimes. But you know what? You're that tired and you're carrying the team so much. It's hard, man. I just feel like it is. But yeah, Bam's definitely like an overlooked star at the end of the day. I think he's a great basketball player. Glad to see he's rising in the ranks. He's truly the forgotten like second star in Miami. De'Aaron Fox. I think it's a little bit overstated that he's this good. I'll take Kyrie Irving. I'll take Brunson. Right. I'll take Edwards for sure. For sure. Holiday, Zion. I'll take those guys over Fox for sure. Very clutch last year. I have to see him probably do it again. I know that sounds stupid that someone did something. Now you got to see him do it again. But there's just a different mindset when people have a whole season to actually look at you and evaluate you as a player. Very hard to keep in front of you, obviously. So if he is a great shooter like that, he is going to be that hard to stop. Jamal Murray, Paul George, Donovan Mitchell. You have to move Jamal Murray above both of these two. He's a champion at the end of the day. He was so good in the playoffs. I think you see how good he can be. I think he is a better Donovan Mitchell when healthy, when he's got time to play. Obviously, the team and system he plays with helps him a lot. Paul George, I think, has a very good idea as to where he is as a basketball player. At this point, I love his podcast and everything. Would I still put him this high? Yeah, I would. His shot-making ability, his ball-handling ability, and his defense are top tier. And I'll be curious to see what the Clippers do this year. They've just got to get people on the court at the end of the day. There's Kawhi. Again, if healthy, if present, yeah, Kawhi's definitely there. Ja Morant this high, though. I don't know if I feel comfortable putting Ja Morant this high. I'd rather put like the Jamal Murrays, and I'll put De'Aaron Fox in front of him, and I'll put Anthony Edwards there. I think we get lost in the big dunks and everything a little bit. I think watching a complete game, I'd rather have those guys on my team. Don't get me wrong, super good player, probably in the top 20 still, but I think I'd rather have those guys if I'm comparing positions. Rounding out the list here, AD. Yeah, if healthy, AD is so unstoppable. Yeah, LeBron outside the top 10. It might be that time. It's tough. His defense is pretty rough at this point. The three-point shot went up, which is great. We know he can still turn it on and be one of the best players in the league, but who do they have in front of him? Shea? Yeah, I'm probably putting Shea in front of him, right? This is going to become are these guys better than LeBron James? Discussion. Shea, yeah, definitely. Shea will be a contender for MVP probably this year if the Thunder have a good record, which I don't know what their ceiling is because of the center position at the end of the day, but I could certainly see it. Dame Dollar, yeah, I'll put him in front of LeBron right now. Him playing next to Giannis is going to go crazy. James Butler, yep, definitely above LeBron right now too. It's just so impressive to see what he does with the Miami Heat. I miss him so much as a Bulls fan. I loved him so much even when they drafted him. And yeah, I don't know how good the Heat are this year, but this is what we say every year, right? Well, I don't know. Let's see how few players Jimmy Butler needs to drag them to the finals. Devin Booker, yeah, definitely falls in this spot, right? This is the year, right? This is the year. If they don't do it with this team, I'll be curious to see how they can retool it. But yeah, no, Booker, good at everything. Great on-ball defender. I'm going to even say that first. I think it's really underrated how good of an on-ball defender that he really is. The scoring is very Kobe-like, right? And if you say that, that should be enough. Jason Tatum, yep, kind of the same things, right? Just great all-around basketball player. Joel Embiid, the MVP from last year, all the way at 6. It was 6 last year. Yeah, the thing with the playoffs, right? I think Joel Embiid is one of those players that is a little bit easier to game plan for when you have all the time in the world to focus on one team, right? Because his game isn't really that complicated. He's just that talented, right? So I do think it becomes easier to stop him there, especially when his running mate is James Harden. It's the exact same problem, right? Where he's pretty easy to figure out and game plan for once you get to the playoffs. So, but yeah, Embiid, phenomenal. I can't wait to see like him versus Wembanyama. I just want to know what happens. Kevin Durant at 5, his game is ageless at the end of the day. He could miss 3 years of basketball, come out and get you 25. He's just a bucket getter. He's a hooper. Takes care of business. Let's just look at the last couple. Luka, yep, Luka's that high. Steph Curry, yeah, in front of Luka, yeah, I'll still put Steph in front. At the end of the day, Steph just gets basketball, man. He's just out there going through the motions. He's unstoppable. And then Giannis and Jokic, right? Yep, I think that's appropriate. I'd say this list is actually pretty solid. I think they overrate some of the guys because of highlights like the Ja Morant and the Trae Youngs and stuff, and maybe like a De'Aaron Fox. But no, overall, really quality list. I can't think of anybody that they really left off. Are there any like comments or anything like that? Nope, just a bunch of advertisements. But no, yeah, I'd say this is fair. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about this list. Anybody you'd have higher or lower? I was expecting some more. Oh, this Jordan Poole one was the worst take. That was the worst take by far. Where do we put Jordan Poole? Stop me when you see a place that Jordan Poole should be. I'll take Jordan Poole or CJ McCollum. These guys. Oh, y'all got me with this one. I can't take him over Klay Thompson, can I? Like, I'll take him over Jalen Williams, though. Like, move Klay up, move Jalen Williams down. He's here with Austin Reeves. That's where I think Jordan Poole should be. Otherwise, really good list. I really like it. But yeah, no, let me know you guys' thoughts in the comments and everything. Just figured I'd throw up a little random video. I saw this list and thought I'd give it a look. But thanks so much, you guys. Video coming up tomorrow. Have a good one, y'all. Bye.